Welcome back to the Augustana Observer Podcast. I'm your multimedia section editor, Jaren Smith. Why don't you introduce yourself first?
Yeah, my name is Jamiah Riley, and I was invited on the podcast to talk with people, talk with you guys and people around.
Hi, I'm the co-host Dippi Sharma, and I look forward to this podcast.
Awesome. So today's episode is kind of talking about, the Wi-Fi transition, which, with me being a senior, you being a sophomore, and you being a freshman, we've got a diverse perspective in the room with some of the great research that Dippi did. Like on Monday at about 2 p.m., the old Wi-Fi was kind of abandoned. There's some transitioning going on. So do you mind telling us kind of some of your early thoughts about the matter?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it did come out like in summertime or like a little bit late, like just before we started school. Like they had, made a little announcement that we were going to be transitioning. And the way that they made it seem, it felt like it was going to be like immediate as soon as we got back to school. But then it got like pushed until now. So then I was proactive and I had like gotten rid of, tried to connect to AC1 as best as I could. And then, that's the key phrase is as best as I could. There was definitely problems because it was a new system that they were working with. So I read all the instructions, tried to get an idea for like what I would be getting myself into because I had to come on campus a little bit earlier since I'm a CA. So we were, working with not having a lot of people on campus, so it was not bad at that point. And it was okay, but there's definitely like the new transition, especially with the other technology, like the TVs, the your consoles or whatever the case may be. Like that was what was giving me problems, at least as of recent, because the website that they have you go to do that, it was not letting me log in, or if it did let me log in, it would like loop back. And that was super, super difficult for me. And there was also, I don't know if I could say this, but I will, because I'm a senator. So we had President Talentino come in and talk to us for a bit. Like we were asking her questions and, she was getting feedback. And she had said, like, even sometimes the Wi-Fi doesn't even work in her office and it's very frustrating. So definitely feel some of that frustration. I was like, if the president's frustrated, only imagine how the students are feeling. So yeah, sometimes it's debilitating, to get work done, but for the most part, it's been okay.
Before going on to Dippi's question, you mentioned President Talentino was frustrated with the internet in her office being in that, big house, so to speak. I'm more surprised President Talentino doesn't have her own separate internet, but yeah. That's just my comment, and I do not mean to offend. I just did not expect them to have the same internet. And even when President Balls a few years ago, because my freshman year, President Balls was president. Yeah. I'm not trying to assume that the same internet, but it's shock. I would have expected them having their own separate connection, but
not the case.
So you said even in President Talentino's, the Wi-Fi is really weak. So in your experience, where do you think the Wi-Fi works more or less, or any particular places?
Yeah, I would say I've never really had a big problem with it, like in my residence hall, which is Westerlin. Since I'm a CA, I live in the freshman dorms, and I've never really had a big problem with it. Sometimes not with my phone or my tablet, but with the, like I said, the TV aspect, it was a little bit wonky at times where it would not load anything whatsoever, so it was a little bit more difficult. But I believe that was when I was still on the old Wi-Fi, which still is a connection to the Wi-Fi in general. So Wi-Fi here at Augie is not the greatest, at least, in the things that I have seen. And I think the places that I've seen where it doesn't really work is honestly in the fourth floor at Gerber. Sometimes we've had situations where trying to do work and it does not work whatsoever. Trying to load pages does not do the thing that it needs to do. And we have had situations where we usually sit by the OSID table or by OSID, and it wasn't working there. So then we migrated over to the brew area. Still did not work. I've also had friends complain about not being able to get work done because of the Wi-Fi not doing what it needs to do. And it's really frustrating, especially when you're trying to get an assignment in, especially if it's like a close to deadline assignment that you're like, okay, I could push this off a little bit longer, and as soon as you try and go do it, you can't.
Yeah, and to add one, even I haven't had a class in this building for a while. The first floor in Hanson, it's like almost always been a dead zone during my time here. Like, I used to be a tour guide, and whenever I'd be on the first floor, no service. Even when I had classes in that building on the first floor, no service. And on Monday of this week during my SI, it's in Ewald. It was around the time where the original Wi-Fi cut off, and I had to use my hotspot to connect to my computer to the Wi-Fi, which was very, very frustrating to say the least.
Honestly, I agree. Like, the library is a place where people come to study, get their assignments, and it's the worst place. Because the Wi-Fi does not work here. Plus, like, it's SOS, like, there's no network here, so you can't even use data to do your homework. So it just, I don't know. I feel like this should be the place where the Wi-Fi works the best, but it's the worst.
Yeah. I could definitely, and then another place that I know for a fact is when I had, like, my language classes in Dinkman, the basement. I want to cry.
Honestly,
it's literally the worst place for it.
Before we even started recording, my phone, my service, which is basically saying SOS. So
oh my gosh.
Is that crazy? But another good question or kind of say point to bring up is, like Augustana, we're a diverse group of students with different areas of study.
Yeah.
And me, I'm an MJMC and communication major. There are some majors where, say, on campus, say like in a classroom, where if technology wasn't working, they might be able to get by. It might be more tedious, like if you're taking, say, a math course or a business course, it might be more tedious to not have your computer, but you might be able to get away with it. For MJMC, I've had classes literally canceled because Wi-Fi was not working. Now, this was in the past before the new Wi-Fi, but I would not be surprised if, say, during after I graduate, maybe the two of you might have a class that gets canceled because the Wi-Fi is just not cooperating. What are the two of your thoughts on that?
I agree, because, like, not even the Wi-Fi, like, the power on campus. Like, I think this week, a few days ago, a few of my friends' classes got canceled just because there was no power. They were like, we don't have power, we can't take the class. And their class got canceled.
Was it an afternoon class?
It was an afternoon class.
I was going to say, because I remember seeing that email that Pub Safety sent, because Augustana's internet, all that basically provided by Mid-American Electricity, which that's very popular to use in the Quad Cities. But just keep going, sorry.
Yeah, that...
Yeah. Yeah, I could probably see that happening, like, in the future, class being canceled. I mean, I'm a psychology major, so I feel like I'm in that realm of being able to get by without needing it. But it honestly also depends on the professors themselves, because a lot of them rely on getting presentations up to be able to, present the information that they need you to learn. And I know, like, in this past semester for fall, I had a classical mythology class, and my professor we were in the basement of, or like the first/lower basement of Old Main. It used to be horrible, especially with trying to, like, he would literally start class. He would boot it up, try and boot it up even like 10 minutes before class started. And it would still like have a really, really hard time like connecting to the internet. And we would too. So we would literally just spend 10 minutes after class had already started like talking about how bad the Wi-Fi was and trying to like get stuff up, especially like on days where we had like quizzes or tests. Like we want to study like really quick before the class starts, but we can't do that because the Wi-Fi is down. So yeah.
Yeah, like the basement, especially like in any building. Like I had my J term in like the basement of Old Maid, never. And we had to like, it never worked. And the professor was trying to show us videos because it was like a comm class and to give us like examples, but it just like kept on loading and loading and loading. So like the 3-hour class, we were mostly just like sitting there while like the videos like were loading. So like the basements are the worst for Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing to add before transitioning to another question is, especially with the recent Wi-Fi games, I'll be honest, I'm happy I don't live on campus because, like, when I need to come to campus for academic, obviously other than classes, it's to print something. So, like, because I don't have a printer in my place. But, you know, there's about a little over 2,000 students who go to this school, and they're connecting to the same Wi-Fi. So, like Dr. Boone mentioned this during our JTerm course, like Augustana is not built to sustain the amount of students and the Wi-Fi
Not at all.
options. But like for being off campus, even though it's only like 5 minutes, I just have to worry about me and one other person. Like, unless they were using so much internet to crash my computer, like I don't have to deal with that problem. So I think another good question to kind of go into, which we all touched on a little earlier, in what specific ways would you say has the new Wi-Fi setup improved or say worsened your academic experience so far?
Ooh, good question. I mean, it's definitely shown me that I have to figure out more options for if I need to, get an assignment done. Because unfortunately, some professors are a little bit more stricter than others. So you can't, blame the Wi-Fi on certain things because they always, or at least my current professor and a professor he was also my professor for last spring semester as well. He is like, no BS. Like, you can get on like a library computer and get your stuff done because guess what? That's connected to like the LAN cable. Like that is connected to the all of Wi-Fi that is pretty strong because it goes through the cable. So he was like, hey, you can go to the library, get your work done. I was like, that is true, but I like the convenience of my laptop. And then the problem with that is that, at the end of the day, just sometimes cannot connect to the Wi-Fi. Or another fear that I have had literally the other day was I got disconnected from the AC1 from my tablet, and I got scared because I was going to, it like was not connecting at all. And of course I have had in the past, like on it, my tablet on it. And when it disconnected, I was like, oh no, please don't tell me I have to go through the whole rigmarole of trying to get back on it. But thankfully I didn't. But to have that fear is such it's so what's the word, like it's not needed. Like I feel like I shouldn't have to have that worry going into trying to do assignments or like I said, at least just connecting to my technologies that I do have on campus.
Yeah, like I feel like every time I connect to the Wi-Fi, I have to go to the website, go connect it, download the thing that you have to download, and then it works. Like almost every time I use Wi-Fi, and I feel like I shouldn't be going through the loop. It should be working in general. Plus, so we have like a new app that we have to download just to use the Wi-Fi on campus. If you have noticed, any thoughts about that?
I didn't know that. What app do we have to download?
It's not like a specific app. Like when you go to the website, it gives you a link.
To the settings.
Yeah. And then, I use Mac, so we have to download this thing. And then when we click on it, then only it joins to the Wi-Fi. Okay. And if I delete that like application thingy, the Wi-Fi stops working.
Oh, wow.
So I have to keep a bit of storage just for that application. So I am connected to the Wi-Fi here.
It makes me mad just thinking about that because, as students, we have so many Google Docs, so many different things we work on, and it gets to be so much that it gets to be unorganized from time to time. But if you're someone who uses your Google Drive often, that runs out of space super easy and takes up space on like a computer too. And it's like, what do I have taking up 10,000 kilobytes, gigabytes, whatever? And it's like, oh wait, I need this to act Wi-Fi on campus. And like, in a way, I almost like how you mentioned some of the fears that you have with, like dealing with like the Wi-Fi. I almost feel bad for, say, like, I'll just say in my position, underclassmen who live on campus, because I've heard stories of people who have had to do big projects and then, Wi-Fi cuts out and it just happens to be something that they couldn't save and they almost have to restart. And it's like, that is very, very traumatic. Yeah. And, I think another important question to ask is, with the old Wi-Fi models, I know it hasn't even been a full week yet, but would you think Augustana should consider, say, bringing those back?
I would say yes. I would like to give this internet a little bit more time just to see what they can do with it, and if there continues to be a problem, maybe like if they're gonna bring them back better than ever. Like it's not gonna be a situation where you're just like, oh, this is bad, let's revert back, and it's like the reverting back is still bad. Like it wasn't like what we had before was good either, but it did force a lot of people, as I've seen like in this past week, trying to, because they would use open or they would use guest to get away from, you know, everybody being on that one, or because they found it a little bit easier because then they wouldn't have to log in or try and figure out how to connect to the AC1 or whichever one. And now they have been in not conflict, but they've been in trouble because now that they got rid of it, they're trying to figure out how to connect to it. And I had a situation where I texted my friend and he was like, I can't get on the Wi-Fi. I was like, why couldn't you? And he just goes, they got rid of it. I was like, I know. I was like, why don't you just connect to it? He's like, I don't have Wi-Fi to connect to it. I was like, oh no. I was like, this is so bad. So yeah, it was just a situation in which like, I feel like if they do bring it back, they need to, one, again, be more transparent, and then two, try and bring it back better than ever, because we can't go in a circle again of having Wi-Fi that does not work, or it works when it wants to. Like, it needs to work all the time.
I would say that they should bring the Wi-Fi back, but they should still keep the Wi-Fi that we currently have.
That was what I was going to ask.
Yeah, because
Okay.
like, we have about 2,000 to 25,000 people on campus, plus like the faculty, staff, professors, the students, obviously, using Wi-Fi, the same Wi-Fi. So like, one Wi-Fi is obviously not going to sustain 2,500 people. So if they have more networks, people can like use any of them. So like one setup won't have the pressure of everyone using that Wi-Fi. So maybe there's a chance it could work better than it is now.
I like that, yeah.
I say I agree, and I couldn't said it any better, because I think if, you know, there were more options, because you have, you know, AC1, AC2, then for the guests, then if you have the Open UGI Wi-Fi, the guests of Augustana College, I don't even know if Augustana Secured was still a thing even last semester, but my freshman year, everyone used that. But
yeah, Secured was still there.
Yeah, you've got several different options. I'm not saying that's that much better, but I'd imagine it would make students less stressed about, oh crap, man, my Wi-Fi is not working as well, and, you know, have the headache and stress and having to discuss, because some assignments that, you know, across different majors, if you lose Wi-Fi, you might have to start all over. Like, you might not have that save button, you know, like, you can't, for some things you might not be able to save, like you can save like a PowerPoint or a Google Doc or Microsoft Word or your 10-page paper, whatever. So I just think having those options would make everyone's lives easier. And also, my little shameless plug, Open UGI Wi-Fi worked perfect for me. Not so much on my phone, but that's okay. It worked so well on my computer.
Okay.
So I'd say if you bring that one back just for me when I'm on campus. I think that helped me out.
Fair.
Maybe I'll let a couple people use that same Wi-Fi also, but if I had my own special Jaren Wi-Fi when I'm on campus, that'd make me feel special.
Oh, wouldn't it all make us feel special?
Yeah,
But,
like,
yeah. Something that you mentioned, Jaren, like, it really put into perspective, like, just having the option, like, having, and Dippi too, like, having all of those networks be able to be open, because you feel stuck. Like, especially with these, they're limiting. Like, there's only AC1 and there's only guest. Like, there's nothing that you can switch, that you can switch to try and make it better. At least when we had, like, secured and open, we could switch in between the two, and we even had guests as well. So it wasn't a situation where you were stuck with only one that wasn't working. You had the option to try and figure out if there were more connections that you could make.
exactly. And we do have AC2, however, AC2 is for, like, esports, specifically. As through my research and emails that the public safety has been sending out, while AC1 is for students, like for general homework, classes, and stuff like that. AC2 is for esports and stuff like that. And then we have the AC guest. And for each Wi-Fi, we have to download like a different thing. So if you're basically just connected to one Wi-Fi. So I don't think that's going to be sustainable in the future.
I don't think it is either. And like going back to when I mentioned that I use my hotspot for just like one specific class, not everybody has because like everyone has different cell phone providers with like AT&T, T-Mobile, things like that. If for those who have cell phones, not everyone has a hotspot, and sometimes even hotspots aren't even the most reliable form of internet either. Like, yeah, it'll get you by, but I just feel like, I feel like students would feel a little bit more confident in having that trustworthy Wi-Fi instead of be like, I got to do homework. Like, we'll use you, for example, because you said you're a CA for Westerlin. Yeah. So, the Westerlin internet is not being as cooperative. Go to the library. Mm-hmm. Oh, library is not doing that good either. Mm-hmm. Maybe I should try somewhere else. And your options for locations just get thinner and thinner and thinner until they're gone. And I just think that I would appreciate it, even though I'm graduating in a few months. I'd appreciate it. I'd also be like, man, you couldn't fix this sooner. But all jokes aside, I just think that, it would help students tremendously.
Yeah, plus I feel like it's either working on my phone or my laptop. It's not like both. Mm-hmm. Like, I have to choose. It's either using my phone or my laptop. So I don't think that should be an issue. And plus, you guys are seniors, so do you think...
Not me.
We're like...
I'll be with you for a couple more years.
But you've been longer here before than I have.
That is true.
So, is the Wi-Fi better from what it used to be? Or, like, is it worse? Or you've had, like instances like this where the college changed the Wi-Fi and there was, like, it worsened or it got better in, like, the last few years?
I think from my perspective... Like, even when I lived on campus, like, it wasn't enough for me to, say, like, complain or rant or want to send an angry email to somebody. I'd have my headaches just like everyone else would. Like, there'd be times where I just can't connect to the internet on my computer. So it's like, all right, maybe let's just wait a little bit. There's no point in trying to get stressed about it. I had this joke with my roommates from last year that, like, during my time here, I have not had to go to the library very often, which I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing. It's just, like, I've been the type of student, like, my study habit, I can do my homework from my room just fine. Like, I understand for a lot of people it's more difficult, but, like, I could use OpenAugie Wi-Fi. Like, junior year for me, I could only use the guest Wi-Fi on my computer. For my phone, the Wi-Fi just kaput, like, would not work for me. I would like, I'm fortunate enough to have unlimited data, so it's like benefit for me, but like, don't get me wrong, not everybody wants to use their data. Yeah. But like, I've had game consoles on campus, but I had an Ethernet cord. Even when I lived in a TLA and that house has specific internet, I still had an Ethernet cord. But I think from a year-to-year basis, for judging the newer Wi-Fi, I think a little bit more time would have to pass to fully critique it. But if it stays where it's at now, I think it's only going to cause more headaches for students. Considering the seniors now and, the two of you as you advance through your Augustana careers. And I just know it's great. We spend a lot of money to go here. A lot. Some students pay for themselves. Some people have their own situations, but yeah. I think the least Augustana College can do for their students is to provide reliable internet.
I absolutely agree. I mean, Jaren basically took the words out of my mouth, I would say. I definitely, basically the same. Like, I didn't really have, like, I had my moments last year where I was just like, okay, the Wi-Fi is not working. What else can I do? I didn't really leave the place that I was at because I was probably at that point was already comfortable enough that I was like, I'm just going to stay. But I also agree with Jaren in terms of like this Wi-Fi would have to stick around a little bit more before I can like make a definite decision of, if it's better, if it's worse. I mean, like I said, I've already seen situations where it's definitely caused some problems. So if that continues, then it might not be the best thing right now. Yeah.
Those are all the questions that I had because I feel like we've had a good conversations of like truly trying to analyze it. We've had like our own opinion because we've had our own takes on the internet and everything. So this has not just been a complaining episode of the Augustana Observer. I feel like we've all tried to look at it from two perspectives, not just our own, but for the sake of other people. And yeah, we'll have our own biases because we all study, different areas. So it's going to affect an accounting major differently than it'll affect a computer science major, which I'd imagine if computer science major lost to Wi-Fi, that might be more difficult than almost any other major on campus. And that's just my opinion. But the two of you have any other thoughts, questions to, add?
Is there anything that you would suggest the campus or like the ITS who operates the Wi-Fi to make it better for students, or like anything they could do, or what has the campus done to make it better?
Yeah, I would probably say, student input is literally the most important thing. It's for the students, then you need to hear from the students. And if you can't successfully do that, then there's no way that this whole operation of like having good Wi-Fi is going to happen. I am not sure whether or not this is true, but I have been told like there's not a lot of people that work in ITS.
There's only a few.
Yeah,
like specifically student workers, and then just like staff. There's only a few.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like hesitant to be like they need to get they need to get it together, because they're only working with such few people as is. But I feel like if that's the problem, then there needs to be like a transparency with each other, because I don't want there to be a problem with like demonizing, because the Wi-Fi is bad, but there's only so much that people can do. And I think transparency would just be a really, really good thing between ITS and like the students. And then again, like I said, feedback and taking that feedback into account. I think that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to say shout out to you both for, amazing, episode, and, offering both of your unique perspectives, and wanted to thank you for your time for joining both of us today. We appreciate it.
Of course. Happy to do it anytime.